Good morning. We're going to go over what I believe to be one of the clearest, most cut and dry examples of Tim Pool being Tim Pool. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So this is a video that Tim Pool retweets. He retweets it and says, "We don't know if the vaccine works, then why get it?" I kind of had an idea of where this was going because I had seen these thoughts coming out already, because this has been a small, little, unnecessary bit of discussion. And yeah, well, let's just go ahead and see what Homeboy says on MSNBC.
This week, are you getting your vaccination this week?
Tomorrow morning, and I'm grateful for it. Chuck, I just wanted to say, just a follow up on what Yasmin mentioned. Just for your viewers out there, I know one of the individuals who we just saw getting vaccinated is planning on traveling after the second dose. This is a source of confusion, but no, this is one of the misperceptions here. Just because you get vaccinated with that second dose does not mean you should be participating in things like traveling in the middle of an out-of-control pandemic, or that you're liberated from masks. Mm-hmm. Everything still applies until all of us get the 2-dose regimen. And we don't think that's going to happen until June, July. And again, this goes back to what we just talked about, Chuck. We don't know if just getting the vaccination prevents serious illness, or does it also prevent you from getting infection entirely, meaning you can still get infected with the virus potentially and pass it on to others. So really, really critical. Don't let your guard down just because you got vaccinated. You still might be able to get infected with the virus and pass on others. So please keep that in mind.
What that person just said was cut and dry. I do not leave that clip thinking anything other than the fact that, hey, it's going to stop you from getting sick, but hey, you could still possibly spread it. We don't know if that is the case, that you would still spread it. So Tim, in his infinite fucking wisdom, says, we don't know if the vaccine works, then why get it? The vaccine works at preventing you from getting sick. But hey, let's say that we assume good faith and Tim needed to research for a second, right? So, you know, let's do that. So I did that little bit of Googling, and right up here, I know it's CNN, the mainstream media. We can't trust this, but pretty straightforward. It says CNN asks the doctor, does the vaccine protect people from getting COVID-19? If so, how come I still have to wear a mask? Because you're seeing a lot of dumb pundits saying, well, if we still have to wear a mask, what's the point of the vaccine? Here's the fucking point, and it's really straightforward. The vaccine will protect you from getting ill and ending up hospitalized. And that's amazing because that reduces the stress on the hospital. It allows our frontline workers to keep working. But it is possible that you can still carry the virus and be contagious to others. The studies haven't shown whether or not the vaccines are protecting people from actually carrying the virus in a contagious way that can still be spread. And what's the point of wearing a mask? Glad you asked, class. It's to prevent other people from getting sick. Sure, if you're wearing an N95, you have a lesser chance of getting it, right? If you have a face shield on, you have an even smaller chance of getting it. But overall, the general population is not walking around with N95s, and they're not walking around with face shields. They're walking around with various types of cloth masks. And those masks are proven through science to stop the spread significantly, to lower the chances significantly that you spread it. That's why we wear masks. But we've talked about that before. Let's get back to Tim. So Tim here, I'm just going to go through my post. But Tim here is being irresponsible with his massive fucking platform. So I post this in the subreddit because I like to engage these people, because you see a lot of cognitive dissonance. You see a lot of intellectual dishonesty. Oh man, sorry. Other fight starting up on Twitter. I have to address that in a minute. Okay. This is the post. This is why people come here to criticize Tim. Here's a cut and dry example. I make a little caveat because, you know, these people are downvote happy for anything that goes against it. You just go into the threads, you go to any of the comment sections, and just scroll down, and there will be a perfectly reasonable comment at the bottom that criticizes the line of thinking that Tim Pool advocates for, that his audience uses, but that is usually wrong. And people don't like that. So when I see reasonable comments getting downvoted, it's a good litmus test for the mentality of the sub. And since I'm going to post this video on the sub, yeah, I'm talking to you guys. I'm not being condescending. I'm not being elitist. I'm pointing out the fact that you guys, here, let's spot check it real quick, right? All right, so there was this stupid meme here, and there you have it. And someone like writes in, this cancel culture was created because the left cannot survive in the marketplace of ideas. And so you have everyone, ha ha ha, that's true, true, true. Let's go to the downvoted comments. Right wing has been canceling democratically elected socialist governments for a century. Hung like Epstein. The same people who tell you that Epstein killed himself and all the cameras failed are the people telling you that this potato got 80 million votes and we don't need an audit to verify votes. There we go. I bet there's a really good one here. All right, cool. What's the bottom comment? Is it really the same people, moron? The OP can't be that dense. He is just being disingenuous. What's this one? The people claiming this election was stolen without evidence are the same who think they're rebels for believing anything the POTUS yells on Twitter. That's a perfectly good pushback to this meme and to the mentality of the subreddit. And then just someone comes in here with some dumb, the OP comes here with some dumb fuck response. And I mean, we see how it goes. I don't really think I need to. Let's see. So when you talk about checks and balances and oversight in our government, Congress doing investigations into the executive branch is a large part of that. It's completely acceptable for Congress to investigate matters, whether it be Russia collusion, Ukrainian quid pro quo, Benghazi, or Whitewater. The fact that investigations took place does not increase the power of the executive branch. Anyway, we're deviating here. Because I still have 22 minutes. All right. So anyway, because of their behavior, I give that little caveat. And then I say Tim on Twitter, and I say this is why it's a problem. If you look at the replies and those who question him, they're incensed that liberals get mad at Tim just for asking a question. Except he's not just asking questions. He's being lazy and reactionary. And that's the problem, because he has 800K fucking fans. So what I go on to say here is that instead, when he does this, it's not harmful, or it's harmful. Because when Tim does this, he spreads his questions because he posits them as questions instead of his actual thoughts, which are, if it doesn't work, then we don't need to take it, right? He says, why take the vaccine if it doesn't work? It's a dumb question off the face because it says so in the clip why you have to wear the mask still, why you still have to socially distance, why you shouldn't be doing unnecessary travel during the pandemic. It's said in plain English, and then it's said in black and white if you do 2 seconds of Googling. So, but when he poses the question in that way, it gets spread into the machine of the people who view him as a trusted source, one of the few trusted sources, the counter source to the mainstream media. And these people aren't all going out and verifying everything that Tim says before moving on. They are taking it at face value and saying, yeah, that's right. I shouldn't be taking the vaccine. If it doesn't work, these people don't have their head on straight. And then it sows distrust in the media, which is bad. It sows distrust in the vaccine, which is really bad, and it sows further distrust in any kind of corrective measure the government might take in the future to make this situation better. We saw this with Trump's actions at the beginning of the pandemic. The way that these people commentate, the things they echo, and the questions they ask have an impact on the way people receive this information. So when you have a vaccine that's going to make life a lot better for a lot of people, and you have people that are probably in the dangerous zone that are going to end up taking this, such as older folks, listening to conservative commentators on the internet. This is a problem. This is a problem. That question is not just a question at this point. And instead, so here's my real gripe, and I talk about this here. Instead of being a vessel for truth and good validated information, which Tim shows all the time he's not, because he will retweet shit without reading it, without researching it, some fucking journalist, instead of being the vessel for good information, which would be, hey, if you're seeing this clip or you're seeing people ask this question, I did some research, here's the answer. You wear the mask because you're preventing the spread, because we don't know if the vaccine prevents you from spreading. We just know that the vaccine does the amazing thing of preventing you from getting seriously ill. Period. End of story. And instead of spreading that helpful information that might not go as far because it's not as inflammatory, because it's not questioning the media, which is what people come to Tim Pool to see, instead of doing that, he asks those questions. And that's the problem. So I think I lay out in a pretty non-condescending way the problem with Tim doing that. And so let's jump into the responses of the community. There were thousands of vessels for helpful information out there saying exactly what you would want them to say. Why do you care so much about the handful of dissenting opinions or someone asking basic questions? The very tweet you linked has tons of replies all saying the same thing you did here. It would seem that this question was promptly answered for all to see by the people who espouse the same information you do. I think I just addressed why it's not just asking a question, and I tell that to this guy down here, but we'll go into his response. It's not just asking a question. And just because there are other vessels of information doesn't mean that we don't hold other major figures accountable. He's not asking a basic question. He's doing measurable harm. We need to address it. There's nothing wrong with holding the people you like to account. There are plenty of people that I like. I still like Joe Rogan, and I still wish that I had some authority to hold him to account, because I bring him up in this thread. Joe Rogan all the time says whatever the fuck he wants, and then when it stirs up a little dust, he says, yo, I'm just a comedian. Don't listen to me. I'm a moron. You can't do that. You have two options. Either acknowledge that you have power, that you have a large viewer base that listens to you and adheres to what you say, doesn't do additional research, and therefore you have a responsibility to be more measured and more controlled with what you say, or to acknowledge that that power dynamic exists, but that you don't give a shit and you want to say whatever you want, and you're shirking that responsibility. Those are your only two options. There's no third. That's it. And unless saying, oh no, there's no way I have power, but that's extra stupid, right? Homeboy also says, I think that the difference between yourself and the regular Tim Pool fan is that most fans don't expect him to be right all the time or have the best hot takes. I don't expect him to be right all the time. I expect him to be a responsible fucking adult with his platform. So, in short, here's what I reply to them. I say the same thing I just said to you. I care because he has the massive platform and he needs to be responsible. I also say that, like, these questions aren't questions, and they spread misinformation. They'll become disinformation, and they'll spread distrust in the system we need people to trust. Not because we need people to step in line and be sheep and lemmings. No, we need them to trust it because it's going to help them. People are more likely to... I say that he brings up that there are people in the replies. That doesn't matter, right? People are more likely to be vocal, less likely to be vocal if they agree, more likely to be vocal if they disagree. But look at the likes and the retweets on the tweet, right? I don't know if I'm able to see the range of how far this tweet got, but it has 7.2K likes, 140 quote tweets, 1K retweets, and a bunch of comments. The algorithm has pushed this to people well beyond Tim's reach. The system has pushed this well beyond people of Tim's reach. That's why we need to care about it. That's why we need to care about how he uses his platform. Let's see. He says the comment about, I think the difference between yourself and the regular Tim Pool fan is that most fans don't expect Tim to be right. I bring up the fact that Tim never backtracks. Like, he backtracked the other day because he retweeted something about someone resigning or getting fired, and then, like, immediately after it was shown to be bullshit, and he just says, it's bullshit. Or the time right after the election when he retweeted the fake Associated Press article. That was bullshit. And he said, LOL, they got me this time. But that shouldn't be funny. And that shouldn't be something we stop and say, that's just Tim. And it shouldn't be a thing where we consider that as any sign of integrity. At the end of the day, Tim retweets shit and says shit all the time without further research or thought. That is not operating responsibly, and that is not good journalism. So no, I don't expect him to be right all the time. I expect him to hold himself to account, and he doesn't do that. His apologies are always the weakest shit, the most unnecessary shit to really invest any thought in saying, that was a good apology. He doesn't do it. And so then he brings up the hell in regards to coronavirus and vaccine. He almost always says explicitly that you shouldn't be taking medical advice from him and should talk to your doctor and make a more informed decision for your personal health care. And this goes back to my whole, personal responsibility in the Joe Rogan thing. So I give my responses, which I think are good faith and well measured. And he responds with Tim's question. Now, I saved this for today. I haven't actually read all of this. Tim's because I didn't want to just do a back and forth all fucking day, because that's how these Reddit threads can go. Tim's question is a basic question that a lot of people will have after watching that clip. It's not a basic question. Again, let's go to this part right here.
Entirely, meaning you can still get infected with the virus potentially and pass it on to others. So really, really critical. Don't let your guard down just because you got that.
That's it. There's, I might understand if you need to like take a second listen, if you need to do the Google search and find out why, but there is no justification for this question at all. Tim's question is a basic question that a lot of people will have after watching that clip. It's not. And if it is a basic question, I have demonstrated already how it's a bad thing for Tim to ask that question publicly rather than take 2 seconds himself to get the answer and then spread the answer. But the bad faith assumption is that Tim doesn't give a fuck, and he knows that if he doesn't just click retweet, quote tweet, and ask that question, he won't get as many clicks as if he said a quote tweet and good information. It doesn't, because his people want to hear that the media is wrong, and they want there to be a problem with the vaccine, and they want masks to not work, and they want lies to be here and there. This audience, I'm not saying this in such a broad way that the audience just wants everything to be bad and wrong with the world, but the reality is that Tim has cultivated an audience that is hungry for that kind of information, for that kind of reality. If getting the 2 doses isn't enough to allow a frustrated populace to get back to the pre-COVID normal, then I suspect that many people simply will opt not to get the vaccine. And those people are stupid. And those people should be educated as to why it's important for them to not do it. Because when they get sick and they get the severe symptoms and they end up in the hospital, they put strain on the medical system that is still going to be there and needed to help the people that haven't got the vaccine yet. We have months and months to go before everyone can get a vaccine. We need people to take the vaccine, and we need people to act responsibly. End of story. The breakneck speed at which it was developed and the new techniques that were used in the development are going to be off-putting. Yes, sure. To a hell of a lot of people that know they have been repeatedly lied to and gaslit about this virus for years. So I bet that whatever he's talking about here when he says repeatedly lied to and gaslit, he's talking about the mainstream media and whatever Tim has pushed. And this is where it's a problem, because the only gaslighting that has happened, the only lies that have been told have been from the Trump administration and their toadies that have gone out and spread that misinformation. Trump knew how dangerous this virus was. We all know this. We're not outraged about it anymore because so much shit has happened since then. So that is a very... That's the typical response I would expect from a Tim Pool person, from a Tim Pool fan. People's distrust of the mainstream media is 100% deserved with or without Tim's input. It's not, though. See, the difference between Tim and the mainstream media is that if you go to the New York Times right now, let's see, New York Times corrections. When you get this nice little webpage, and you can see every correction. I can just go down and I can find every correction. I asked someone on Twitter who got into an argument with me about this, and I said, can you point to a lie? And the lie they pointed to was something that was reported on Sunday, and all the lie was is the incorrect video when they said something was happening. It was a different video of a shooting or something. And the next day, less than 24 hours after it was called out and brought to people's attention, they issued an apology and a correction. That is how media works. Tim doesn't do this. And if Tim was operating with as much transparency and integrity as you people like to say, then Tim would have this page on his website where we could go and we could see every dumb fuck major blow up tweet he's made that ended up being wrong, every video that called out a problem that ended up being wrong. Tim doesn't do that. There's far more integrity in the mainstream media than there is in Tim Pool. So no, it's not 100% deserved with or without Tim's input, but Tim's input is the important part here because Tim's input does create that distrust on a disproportionate level to whatever lack of integrity they have. You want to get really upset? The MAGA kids got railroaded. Those kids, the full clip turned out that those kids weren't being as antagonistic as it was implied, as the video clip that we originally saw was implying. When we saw more video, we realized that man was antagonizing those kids. And that was a good moment to call out the media and say, hey, you just put a target on these kids' back and did nothing about it after the fact. There we go. But that is a rare and few and far between occurrence. You have to measure your reaction to moments like that in the grand scope of the media. And the grand scope of the media is a relatively honest operation outside of Fox News. And that's not because I disagree with Fox News. It's because I used to watch Fox News growing up. And now that I've come to be who I am today, I put a little more thought into what I believe. And I realized that Fox spins a lot of shit. It's an entertainment organization that is catering to ratings, not to truth and news. They are not news outlets and haven't been for a long time. That's a really applicable thing to Fox News, not to CNN, not to the New York Times, not to the Washington Post, partially not towards the New York Post, but New York Post is a terrible rag as it is. Like, just because they're one of the oldest newspapers in America, if not the oldest newspaper in America, that doesn't mean jack shit when they continue to... They were the only ones that touched the Hunter Biden thing. And I know that you people in the subreddit think the Hunter Biden thing was this massive shit that is now coming to fruition with all the news about China influence and whatever. There's still so much unproven about that you all bought into. But let's not deviate too far. Because again, this is a cut and dry example, and I'm not trying to muddy the waters with all the other things that I know that you folks buy into. They are mouthpieces for political parties. Are we talking about Fox News? Because I'm getting a Fox News vibe here. Influential businesses and unnamed inside sources. If you think that Tim is dangerous for pointing that out, then I'm sorry, but you and I are simply operating are not operating from compatible moral playbooks. The playbook you're operating from is faulty. It's missing pages. It has little black marks scratched out where you don't want to believe things. That's what Tim Pool does. Tim Pool reaches into that playbook and he makes little edits that are unfounded and unsubstantiated. He responds to my comment about Tim not backtracking, but he does backtrack and he does correct himself. When he gets new information that contradicts his previous positions or convinces him that he was wrong, he will adjust, incorporate, and move forward, pushing his new understanding. Honestly, how much do you see of his content? Are you someone who primarily gets your opinion of Tim through highlighted tweets or clip videos, or do you actually watch his daily content and IRL streams in full? For full integrity, I don't watch all his streams. It's very difficult for me to watch them because I want to talk to him and I want to tell him, that's wrong. That's a lie. That's a misinformation. That's a pivot. That's a whatever. It's very difficult for me to listen to all of his content. But I watch his Twitter religiously, and I watch how he operates. And Tim runs his own Twitter. Tim posts shit all the time. You can get a great view of who this man is from his Twitter, and a handful of videos to kind of corroborate it. His corrections don't carry much weight when he doesn't really acknowledge them in any true public fashion. I will, for the next 2 weeks, give you this pledge. I'm going to watch as many of his videos as I can. Everything he posts. And if he doesn't post because of Christmas, I will go back and I'll watch some. So in the comments of this video, you can go ahead and recommend some videos you watch. If you have some examples, also in the thread, if I post this to this subreddit, you can tell me what videos highlight Tim's exceptional journalism and his integrity. I would very much like to see it, because with as much content of his that I have consumed, from his Joe Rogan appearances to his Twitter to the videos I have watched of his, I'm not seeing it at all. I'm seeing someone who believes that they are the arbiter of truth and yet does not operate with integrity. This goes back to the responsibility part. Tim and Joe both have a lot of power, but they have only been able to attain power. Oh, I hate this part. They have only been able to attain that power by being genuine and speaking honestly to their audiences. There's a difference between speaking honestly and speaking about things that you don't know well enough, yet might have impacts on other people. When Tim gets things wrong, which happens frequently, I can almost always attribute to him operating from incorrect or incomplete data. I expect Tim to, I don't understand how he's pushing back with this when I just gave a perfect example of that question not being basic and that question being harmful and how that audience reaches into it, because those people aren't going to other sources of truth. People who watch Tim Pool and Joe Rogan, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying enough that it matters, listen to those people and then do minimum research, or suddenly distrust any other sources they might find other than them. I can almost always attribute that to him operating from incorrect or incomplete data. I expect him to do his best to get things right far more often than he gets things wrong, which he does. I also expect him to acknowledge his biases and do his best to resist the urge to spin a story, which he does. Finally, I expect that he will get things wrong from time to time, and I can live with that reality. My problem is that when you watch the Destiny debate, and Destiny makes a good point, and he tries to find some grounding, Tim pivots away, Tim gives an anecdote, whatever. Tim doesn't operate in a straightforward manner when it comes to disagreements on his views of a lot of shit. And then he puts, with great power comes great responsibility. He agrees, but then he also says, if you always worry about crushing ants beneath your feet, you wouldn't be able to walk. And that is a little bit of a problem standpoint to have. I get that Tim is probably one of the biggest fucking political YouTubers in the country, if not the biggest. If you always worry about crushing ants beneath your feet, Tim advocates himself, he considers himself an advocate of the people, someone processing the bullshit and giving you the truth. You, in that framework, cannot live by this right here. That cannot be your motto. That cannot be the way you conduct your life, because the ants are the people that you say you're doing your best work to protect, to give the truth to help them in their lives. You can't abide by that. This one really upset me because I try to not sound elitist, but here's the problem. I get the elitist thing. I get the elite liberal idea, right? The Muskies, Richard Nixon's fraternity that he created was founded on the basis of the liberal elites don't let me into their clubs, so fuck it, I'll start my own. I grew up conservative. I get that idea of the liberal elite. But as someone who's become a liberal, I kind of understand why they would feel that way, because I am now operating off ideas that are far more grounded in reality. And in doing so, it's contradictory to a lot of people's opinions. And when I say, hey, no, actually, if you read or if you look further into this, or if you try to ground your beliefs in something a little more substantive than what you're seeing on Newsmax, OAN, and Fox News, or your favorite political pundit of the week on the internet, it sounds like I'm being condescending. So let's jump into this. The elitist view, what you're espousing, nothing elitist about saying the dude didn't do his due diligence. The dude has a responsibility to do his due diligence and do the best he can by his viewers. But apparently that's elitist. I'm pretty sure none of that is, even if it sounds elitist in the way I framed it, which I don't think it does. The elitist view, what you're espousing, is that publishers have the responsibility because the readers have no capability of thinking for themselves. Actually, yeah. It's not that they don't have the capability, it's that they will choose not to. I have trusted media sources. I have organizations that when I hear something, I don't feel the urge to validate it as much, because I will usually see it echoed with other sources that are equally reliable. But we're talking about things like, hey, mainstream media says masks work. Cool. The only time I've ever felt the need to research that was when another part of the mainstream media said, are you sure about that? And that was the Fox Newses, the OANs, the political pundits online. And then it's like, okay, well, cool. Now I gotta research it because this is becoming a topic. And lo and behold, masks work. And so now I'm an elitist asshole for saying, hey, look at this fucking study that the president tried to denounce from the CDC, which the president has flipped on supporting, which is put undue pressure on to make decisions that he wanted so that he looks good, so that his ideas are the ones being propagated by an organization that is put there to protect the people of the United States. You don't see that as a problem? And I'm an elitist for saying, look at that study? I don't think so. But most people don't think for themselves. Most people are content choosing their brand, their organizations of choice, and just following them. So yeah, no, the readers have the ability to think for themselves. They choose not to. And that's who Tim has a responsibility to the most. He has a responsibility to everyone. He has a responsibility not to put dumb shit out into the world. But as far as his viewers go, the ones that won't read for themselves, that won't research for themselves, those are the ones that Tim has a responsibility to manage. The populist view is that the readers have the responsibility and capability to think for themselves, and we shouldn't bar people from the marketplace of ideas. This marketplace of ideas phrase gets tossed around in some of the stupidest situations, and this is one of them. I'm sorry, the conservative techie, but the populist view that the readers have the responsibility and capability to think for themselves, it's not true. They do have the ability. They do have the responsibility. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. It is true. They do have the responsibility. And I usually want to put more onus on people as a larger group than individuals. However, the reality is that as individuals, people like Tim Pool carry so much weight and authority and respect from their audience that they have to reel it in and consider the fact that many will not read further, will not contextualize, will not seek additional information. You and all the other people mocking Tim Pool in the sub should engage with the statements instead of trying to cancel people you disagree with, regardless of whether you're right or wrong. First of all, I'm not trying to cancel anyone. I'm trying to call the motherfucker out. And I want his fans to call him out, because the moment that happens, the moment that paradigm shift occurs, is the day that Tim develops a little bit of responsibility. Because right now, Tim is making plenty of money and having a good life and doing whatever the fuck he wants because no one is here to hold him to account. And that's the fan base he has built. I'm not trying to cancel Tim. And I do engage with the statements. I'm literally doing that. Tim made this statement and I'm engaging with it. When up here with Homeboy, with Mr. Waffles, he makes a statement and I engage with every single bit of it. I didn't engage with this one because, again, I was going to get into an all-day Twitter battle. But I'm engaging with it here. I engaged with every word in good faith and I left nothing out. Even if we were to accept every point you've made here, if you think Tim is dumb and doesn't provide solid information, why not simply stop watching and listening to him for the umpteenth time? Because I think he is powerful and I think he has a responsibility. So me stopping doesn't solve the problem of Tim continuing to propagate bad ideas. When I encounter a creator or outlet I dislike, I don't go to their forums to insult them and their followers. I just avoid them and look at better sources. Again, this is why people like Tim are able to continue doing what they do, because people don't call them out. They just stop watching. There are countless left-wing commentators on YouTube who talk absolute bullshit, but you won't catch me on their comment forums virtually every single day talking shit just to get downvoted and ignored. Okay, here comes one of those elitist condescending comments that I've been accused of, so I might as well make one. I imagine that if this is how you operate, the ideas that you're going to espouse in those forums will be fucking stupid. But you should. You fucking should. You should go there. And if you genuinely believe that what someone is saying is bullshit, you should speak to it and speak out against it. I simply don't care enough about influencing what other people are doing to dedicate time and effort to entering their discussion spaces to derail conversations and mock them. It's weird behavior no matter which way you slice it. Cool. Let's take a step back. I'm not mocking him. I didn't come here and say, look, this dumb fuck. I've said that, I think, in this video. But like when I engage in these threads, I don't just come in guns blazing saying, dumb fuck, look at this stupid shit. What an idiot. Ha ha ha. And I'm not condescending. Yeah, sorry, train of thought lost. I simply don't care enough, blah, blah, blah. If you generally, it's weird behavior no matter which way you slice it. No, it's not. It's mildly responsible behavior as a citizen to hold people with power accountable. Isn't that something Tim preaches all the time? If you generally care about people abusing their platforms to spread misinformation or inspire dangerous action, there are more important targets for your efforts than the nerdy, moderate, barely right of center liberal Tim Pool. That is fucking absurd. His base is so conservative. How do these people keep saying that? It's like, well, I don't hate gays. I don't hate I don't think abortion rights should be hindered. I don't hate women, therefore I am a liberal. And anything else I say is just me being a moderate individual who is putting good thought into what is happening. And that's really not the case. There has to be some tool where I can look at Tim's follower base. Like, You don't engage this much with Ian Miles Chong and not hate that man if you are a barely right of center left liberal. OB's goal is pointed criticism of a news source. Is that not a worthy goal? How do you distinguish between media criticism in good faith and derailing, mocking, talking shit, etc.? My point exactly. Who is an example of a more important target? See, this was a really good response, asking direct questions, and nothing. Now, I don't expect everyone to respond to everyone. I get people all the time saying dumb shit like, "Ha, see, nothing." Oh God. Oh my God. We have some Twitter stuff to go through. But no engagement whatsoever. This is absurd. Tim, all right. Well, this is the last big comment we'll go through. This is absurd. Tim used common sense and made a perfectly logical conclusion. Again, let me reiterate, no, he didn't. His answer was in that, and his answer was a deeper answer was a small Google search away. Anyone trying to make the case that Tim was lazy would feel awfully silly if they didn't think this through themselves. I've thought this through a lot. This has been on my mind for the last 48 hours. Well, 24 hours. 48 hours because I saw people making this stupid comment before Tim. Just on a very deeper, much less intellectually honest way. First of all, as we were originally told, COVID is primarily an issue for vulnerable populations. No, it's an issue for everyone because it affects our medical system on such a grand scale that it's not just a problem for vulnerable populations. It's a problem for society. The definition of that population has changed as we learn more, but the premises remain the same. So this means that as soon as those populations have been vaccinated or had the opportunity to vaccinate, there is no longer any reason for any COVID restrictions whatsoever. That is not fucking true. Business owners and employers can set whatever rules they want, but government mandates would be rendered unnecessary. Anyone unprotected is unprotected by choice. This is stupid. We have limited supply. Again, it's going to the frontline workers and the fucking insanely vulnerable. There's still the rest of the population to think about. Second, I'm very skeptical about this. They haven't concluded COVID can't be spread after vaccination, but do they have reason to believe this is the case? Yes, because the studies haven't been tracking that. The studies were tracking who is infected. We don't worry about this with measles or TB. We've had those vaccines forever. We've also been told that wearing masks isn't necessarily about stopping the spread of COVID, but limiting the viral load. I'm not sure where this person gets this idea. It is explicitly from the CDC mask study. It is literally reducing the spread of SARS-CoV-2. Holy fucking shit. We've also been told that wearing masks is blah, blah, blah. A vaccine would mean that the virus isn't replicating inside of you. No, that's not what it means. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about and why it's important for Tim to do research. Because if Tim had said this, it's like when in Steven's community, when I go into chat and I say something and everyone disagrees with me, and then Steven comes in and says, no, I believe the same thing. And then the tide fucking turns. If Tim had said what is true, and had done 2 seconds of research and made a substantive tweet instead of his bullshit, fear-mongering questions, if he had done that, this person would not be saying this shit. Or maybe they would, but I guarantee you, fewer would. Additionally, kids have been found to be very poor spreaders, so it seems fairly obvious this virus isn't spreading second and third hand. What? Like other viruses, it spreads primarily when it replicates inside a person, and they somehow emit that virus in a way that allows large quantities. What this feels like is exactly what anti-authoritarians have been ruthlessly mocked for believing over the past several months. This is materialization of the never-ending COVID restrictions predicted by people roundly mocked as COVIDiots and Darwin Award winners. And to be sure, some were reactionary and illogical, but at the end of the day, it seems generally good speaking, they were right to fear exactly this. No, they weren't. You just espoused misinformation about masks. You just espoused misinformation about the way this vaccine works. You just espoused misinformation about the way the virus spreads. This is exactly why Tim Pool, using his platform responsibly, is incredibly important. Apologies for ignoring y'all. I just didn't have a lot of time, and I wanted to get through this. But in short, to summarize, for the Tim Pool fans, you can get angry that I get angry. You can get frustrated and upset that someone is here to disagree with you. It's not a bad thing. And for you who talk so much about the marketplace of ideas, I am presenting some pretty well-grounded ideas, both from how Tim should use his platform to the truth about COVID. Now, you want to say I don't engage with them? You can go look at my last thread that I posted into the subreddit, where I talked about a whole bunch of shit. I debunked that. I know you guys like debunkers. I debunked that checklist of all the election fraud nonsense, and people didn't engage with the ideas. A lot of that thread, a good majority of that thread, was commentary about the sources I used rather than the ideas within the sources. See, if someone uses OAN, I will say that's garbage, but I will not stop there. I will then look at exactly what they say, and I will pick it apart bit by bit. No one did that. One person did that. And that came with the statistical analysis that supposedly showed there was an anomaly, and in the numbers tallied. But other than that, not a single person engaged with the actual information like that. So, in conclusion, if you disagree with anything I said, or if you feel that you have a clip or a video or a tweet that disproves, on a significant scale, by the way, you can't show me, again, one of the instances I already cited of his bullshit backtracks where it's like, LOL, they got me, or LOL, it was bullshit. But like a serious, where he comes back a week later and says, actually, I was dead wrong about this, in any meaningful way, where the original tweet he made was actually done with a little bit of research and not just some reaction to whatever the hell he was posting. If that's the case, please show me. I want to know. My name is Larkin. Please subscribe to my channel, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I need your subs and I need your support so I can grow my shit bigger. Please, oh please, I don't need donations, just need your follows and adorations. Please, 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 like, subscribe, and follow.